that is him.
Done.
I think so. Call this meeting to order, this April 16th, 2021 Newton Falls Council regular meeting to order. If you could turn off all your devices, either set your phones to vibrate or turn them off. And I would ask that I don't see council or staff or anybody else's phones, and that we each cooperate and work together for a good meeting tonight. Stand for the pledge.
Turn it off.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Precious Lord, dear God, we're just honored to be about your business. We do pray that you would be here with us, dear God, that you would see no deceit in our hearts, dear Lord, that we would be about your business and the work of Newton Falls. And we just pray for this, dear God, in your name. Amen.
Amen.
All right.
Is there any copies of the agenda laying out there anywhere? Paper copies? I could get one. Nobody has any?
All right. Mr. Fritz, you're working as the clerk tonight then?
That's correct, sir.
Okay, if you want to call for the
Roll.
Yeah.
Mr. Zimmerman? Here. Mr. Bariak? Here. Ms. Bletzer?
Here.
Ms. Bremeyer?
Here.
Mr. Alberini?
Here.
Okay. Any special presentations? I don't believe so, so that's a no. On the public comment section, as a reminder, it's limited to agenda items, name, address, 3 minutes, unless I was contacted in advance, and I do have 3 individuals there for that, Mr. Curlin, Mr. Kropp, and Tracy Hurst. So if you want to go in that order, Mr. Curlin, if you would like to be first, give your name, your address, and you'll have 10 minutes on the clock.
Richard Curlin, 611 North Canal Street, Newton Falls. I come here with no malice or hate for anyone. And I thank you for allowing me the time to comment specifically on the recalls. As we all know, whether or not you like the recall decisions or not, recalls are permitted by the United States, Ohio, and the community. And with that, we've had many recalls in Newton Falls, but surprisingly not as many as you might think. We've had 5 that council people have been involved in, for instance. But the freedom offered us on a recall is the same as the freedom that is offered us for religion, for carrying guns, for voting. That is what democracy is about. We come to talk about a recall vote that needs to be taken immediately to try to go along with what the voters of the 4th Ward have said they want, an election. I noticed that one of the motions on there is to have a recall in May 3rd. And that was, I think, Mr. Alberini that made that, from what I understand. And he's been a councilman for almost 8 years, and he knows nothing like that's ever been done before. So I almost thought it was humorous, except I thought it was ridiculous. But I know that he's not for recalls, and that's his opinion. He has every right to that opinion. I believe that what we forget sometimes is that we've had a recall on your while you were councilman, and that was John Bariak in 2019. So we've had one already on that. 13 months seems to be ridiculous, almost to the point of comical, to be honest. The recall in the charter has been fulfilled and awaits a date within 90 days to have a recall assigned. Now, what I've done, what we've done, is to call different attorneys and law directors and a judge who is retired, and a law director who is presently in the city, or not the city, but the county. And we asked the question, what would they, knowing our charter, how would they feel as far as the rules and regulations of having a recall? They would all agree that the recall, all of them, including, by the way, a letter from the council for the Board of Elections, that recall should be within 90 days. We have done it that way for years, although the recall has changed. It still says that in the charter. Now, the attorney, Mr. Toth, and this was public records, that's why I introduce it, and to phrase just one thing that he said in regards to a letter by our law director, can we agree that the alternative interpretation is valid and that a recall election should be held as scheduled by the council within 90 days of the date of delivery of the recall petition? Please let me know your thoughts. I believe that the recall per se is a recall to judge, and no one's trying to right now say whether the Fourth Ward Councilwoman is guilty or not guilty. The question is when we have the election to determine that. If she is found to be kept and not guilty of whatever they determine is what, and by the way, that was a court case in 2019 and a court case in 1992, that whatever was put for a reason to have a recall would be judged by the voters. As far as special elections go, special elections have been held in Newton Falls every time except once for every recall. And that was only because at that time Mr. Bariak was recalled and he was to be reelected also. The other thing I want to discuss is a conflict of interest issue. I believe that it would be a conflict of interest if anyone, and in this case, the Fourth Ward Councilwoman, would vote on whether or not a date was given any time whatsoever. I spoke to an investigator with the Ethics Commission, Mr. Mark Honley, 2 times. First, I asked if a council person could take part in any discussion regarding the naming of a date for election. His response is no, it would be a conflict of interest. He says, please understand, I can't make any decisions if it hasn't happened. She has the right to break the ethics if she so desired. Now, the problem with that, if she so desires, she has sworn not to break the ethics of this community by signing a statement, as you all have, to uphold the rules of the Ethics Commission of Ohio. You signed that statement. We also have an ethics policy in which it says that you must obey the laws concerning the Ethics Commission of Ohio. There's no choice, you must obey it. But really the coup de grace to everything, the thing that was brought to my attention, and someone read the charter on this, it's in our charter. If conflict of interest or you were not obeying the ethics of the state of Ohio, you would be breaking the charter. And Rules of Conduct 121.03, number 8, council shall follow the Ohio Ethics Commission ethics policy. I understand that when you're talking legally, and I heard this from Mr. Fritz once, shall means will. That would read, council will follow the Ohio Ethics Commission ethics policy. There's no choice, that's what it says. Now, some of the things that he sent me as far as conflict of interest, basically, it's one thing on the first page. As a result, the Ohio ethics law prohibits public officials or employees from participating in any way in actions or decisions that definitely and directly involve their own interests and those of their families or businesses. it continues another one that Mr. Hunley had referred me to. When someone in public service is confronted with a conflict of interest, he or she must completely abstain from making decisions or influencing how the matter is resolved. This will be inclusive. Such abstention or recusal would include refraining from voting, discussing, reviewing, recommending, inspecting, or taking any other action. Remember, public servants may not take any action in matters that definitely and directly affect themselves. Now, this is no opinion. This is what the ethics reads. And again, I relate to what it says in our charter, and in our charter that I've just read you under rules and procedure, you're required not to break that. I didn't ask Mr. Hunley, but I wonder if there would be a complicity involved if you let someone break the charter and knew about it, and you didn't say anything. It's an interesting thought. Now, again, back to when we have elections, the 4th Ward Councilman in 2011 everything was approved, and they ran for a special election, and that special election was held within 60 days. In 1992, and you can ask your councilman there, 1992, 3 councilmen were recalled. None voted on whether or not they would name a date, time, or anything else. They were not allowed to vote. The other time was Mr. Bariak in 2019. What I say to you is it's pretty obvious in one fact. It would be a conflict of interest.
Mr. Curley, your time is up. I'll give you a few seconds to finish up your point, and we'll move on.
I thank you very much. I simply say that according to our charter, it's been fulfilled except the date, and according to what the Ohio Ethics and our charter says, you must not break an ethics violation. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Crop, if you want to take your 10 minutes, give me your name, your address, and make sure we're on agenda items only.
Brian Crop, 247 Elizabeth Street. Hopefully you guys can hear me and see me. I really want to, what I wanted to emphasize is pretty much what Rick stated very clearly. Our rules, the rules of conduct, the rules of our charter, the rules of the Ohio Ethics Commission are very clear. And I've spoken with many members of the public. I've spoken with members of council as well. And my request in regards to this issue is that, Mayor, that you are the presiding officer of these meetings of our council. You are the elected official here. You are the judge of this body, essentially. You are the tie-breaking vote. You are the representative of our village. You and you alone are the elected mayor of our town. And I hope that you take that role very seriously as this moves forward, because I think a lot of people here, a lot of people in the community are aware, unfortunately, with the way things have happened most recently in the last couple of years, we know exactly before these meetings take place, we know long before any of the votes take place how they're going to go. We know who's going to vote on what. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure these things out, and that is a huge issue here when you have a lot of things happening behind the scenes. And I really truly believe that this is going to be one of those situations, and I hope that you will do what's right for the community. What you were elected for, what you ran for, was to represent the best will of the community, of the people here in town, and do the right thing when it comes time to make these decisions and to do the just thing. I also wanted to kind of touch on, Rick mentioned a couple rules here, and since you are the mayor, and I think council, this has gotten away from council quite a bit, and I touched on this at the last meeting when I talked. Unfortunately, it doesn't feel like there's a whole lot of rules being followed here, and that's really unfortunate. And I think that's a reason why these meetings have tend to get away from us and tend to become kind of a circus and kind of a zoo, is that the rules that we're supposed to be following, the rules of conduct and the rules of how these meetings are supposed to be run, are not being followed to the letter and equally and evenly applied to all people involved, whether it be members of, member of the body, the council itself, council staff, members of the public, etc. So I think it's really important that as far as the rules of conduct, that I'm just going to kind of read because I think this is pertinent. Rule number 1 in our rules of conduct is no more than one member of council may speak at any one time at at any meeting of council. So that falls under any meetings. Also, in order to speak, a member of council, this is 2, in order to speak, and this is a big one, everybody, in order to speak, a member of council must first be recognized by the presiding officer. So when people want to bark out things, how they want to do this or how they want to do that, you're the presiding officer. They need to ask you to be recognized. You can't just talk. People can't just talk out of line and talk whenever they feel like it. And unfortunately, we have a lot of that. We have council staff members in particular that like to direct, give orders, and kind of tell everybody what to do when they actually have no legal authority to do so whatsoever. They're administrators, and I think they need to kind of be put back into that place and to understand their role. They're not elected. They're hired. They work for the village. The village is made up of elected officials, elected public servants, and that's what you all are. And that's very, very important. Being elected and being appointed and being hired are 2 totally different things. And as far as ownership of what happens here in this building in particular, like the mask rule that has to do with what we're all sitting here right now wearing masks, even though we have other meetings where people don't wear the masks. It's silly to me. But I'll fast forward a little bit to what Mr. Curlin mentioned, and to kind of stay on track here. The Ohio Ethics Commission policy. Our charter very clearly states that we are to follow the Ohio Ethics Commission policy. And as Mr. Curlin pointed out, ethics are a very important part of what we do. If we don't follow the rules, and if the rules aren't equally and evenly applied to all people involved, we have a zoo. And that's what people come to expect and come to see from these meetings. I hope tonight we'll see that that's going to stop. And I hope that people will stop speaking out of turn, speaking out of line, and not asking for recognition to speak when the time comes. And Mr. Mayor, I hope that you take that very seriously in running and organizing this meeting and keeping it on track. I wanted to also touch on, I actually received, someone from the public here sent this to me that received it. It was an email that was actually sent out just recently from one of our council members, and just some of the things that were included in this email. I won't go into it word for word, but what one of our council members mentioned was that there's a small group of people here in town that are affecting all these changes, that are directing how things move and how things work, which is honestly laughable. And the reason I say that is because I actually brought the election tallies from the last election, from when the councilwoman in the fourth ward was actually elected. So the petition that was sent around for the recall, there were, I believe, 191 verified signatures on that. If anybody can verify, that was 191 signatures verified. I know there was over 200 that were collected. On this, the vote tally for the fourth ward, the entire fourth ward, just to give you an idea of how small a number that this allegedly is, the total votes cast was 165 in that ward. So not only were the signatures that were collected were much, much more than what the tally was. The sitting councilwoman actually only received 87 votes according to the Trumbull County Board of Elections. So I'd be more than happy to print off copies if you guys want this and see this. But to actually sit and with a straight face to say that the public isn't making this decision, that the public's not behind this, and the public hasn't had the say in this, that the entire ward hasn't had an opportunity to speak on this, is laughable. And after being, a council person for a long time, and I won't say any names, but somebody who's been a public representative for a long time, it's very clear that some people have no concept of what public service is, of what being an elected official is, and how to actually represent the people of your ward or of your community. And it's, like I said, it's laughable to even make such a comment or make such a claim that there's a small handful of people, that there's a small group of people that are running things or that are in charge, and then to make comments about criminal records and make comments about home ownership and that kind of stuff. Registered voters are what is important. People that sign the petitions and referendums, if they're registered voters, that's what's important. And these registered voters came out in numbers far surpassing the people that actually voted for the individual that's being recalled. So I really think council needs to take that into consideration. And again, I hope the mayor will take into consideration his powers and authorities that are vested in him by our charter and by the people that actually elected you to hold this position, and not by the people that are paid for or hired or appointed or whatever. You were elected, and so were the other council members, well, a handful of the other council members. We hope that you'll do the right thing this evening. Thank you.
Okay, the last person that made prior arrangements was Mrs. Tracy Hurst. Give your name, your address, stay on agenda items, and you'll have 10 minutes.
Tracy Hurst, property owner and taxpayer at 613 Ophelia Street. I want to thank you for the extra time to speak, and my hope is that I will not take the full allotment. One thing about going not first or second, but third, there may be some things I might reiterate that have already been said, but I'm going to try to stay on track. First, I want to confirm that those of council have the charter readily available, specifically Section 4 pertaining to the recall. Secondly, that you have read it and interpolated it as it is written and not how you think it should be written or how it should be applied or how you think it reads. It cannot be written more clearly. And thirdly, the petitions were turned in, verified by Ms. King and the Board of Elections. And did any of you on council compare the total count of signatures gathered for the recall against those that are registered in Ward 4 and those that voted from Ward 4 during the last election? If you did, then you would understand the volume of people that have spoken. It's not just a select few, as we often hear. And just a quick synopsis of some things referenced, in our charter that I understand were brought up was nonfeasance, which can be defined as not doing something which you ought to do, failure to act where there was a duty to act. Misfeasance is the act of engaging in an action or duty but failing to perform the duty correctly, conduct that is lawful but inappropriate. And malfeasance is the intentional conduct that is wrongful or unlawful, especially by officials or public employees. So I'm curious, could voting on your own disciplinary action and/or recall, foul and derogatory language, in addition to unprofessional behavior during a council meeting, fall under any of these previously mentioned categories? Those actions may not be on the high end of the spectrum, but I feel they are certainly within the spectrum. I do reiterate, I stand behind what Rick said and what Brian said, and thank you for your time.
Okay, if there's anybody that would like 3 minutes, step to the podium, give your name, your address, and again, agenda items, and you have 3 minutes.
Jamie Klein, 312 Ridge Road, Ward 1. 211 Ward 4 citizens have signed these recalls. It doesn't matter who circulated them, as I was told in an email. The only thing that does matter in these recalls is who signed them. They were all Ward 4. If that was me sitting right there, 211 people in the ward that I'm supposed to be representing wants me out, I'd pick up my dignity and leave. But I'm not in her seat, and we all know that she's not just going to walk away. So we need to get the ball rolling. To the council person who put this on the agenda for May of 2022, you already know this goes against your charter. So this item needs to be removed from tonight's agenda. And by the way, I'm a homeowning taxpayer in Newton Falls.
Uh-oh.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. This is a little longer than the 3 minutes, so if I need to pass this off, I will.
Could I please have your address and your name, please?
I'll get there. Put a sock
Wait a
on,
minute,
buddy.
don't point.
Give me a chance, sir. Give me a chance.
We're not going to start off like this.
Yeah, we're not going to start out that
I'll
way.
make
Thank you very much.
the decision.
Please have
Your
your
name,
I didn't hear
your
his name and
address.
address.
Mr. Bariak, hold on. And I don't know, you can't pass off until somebody else gives their name, their address.
That's correct, and then we will do that, sir, just for you. There you go. My name's Lyle Waddell, 2404 East River Road. Good evening, Mayor and Council. This evening, I'm going to make a presentation, and I'm going to shoot some holes into Mr. Curlin's statements and some other things here to show you that they aren't true. This evening, I'm going to make a presentation with the help of some others. Some of this information will make some uncomfortable. However, there are no allegations or accusations, and as I've always done, I will show documents to prove that. I am also disappointed that the Tribune continues to get quotes from people who will not tell the truth, and then they print this false information. Tonight, I have a copy of all the factual information to give to the Tribune. Let's get started. About a week and a half ago, the Tribune printed an article on the upcoming recall, A1 and A2. Mr. Bariak made the following statement. He had spoken to a representative of the Ohio Ethics Commission about Ms. Braemeyer's voting against her own discipline regarding a derogatory comment he said she made on Zoom after a previous council meeting. He said he was informed that she should have abstained and recused herself from the vote. Mr. Mayor and to all the citizens of Newton Falls, that statement by Mr. Bariak is, in my opinion, a bold-faced fabrication of the truth. Mr. Curlin has also posted on Facebook and stated tonight some things that Ms. Braemeyer can't vote. The fact is, both of these statements have no factual basis and are outright false. Mr. Bariak, did you have an email from the Ohio Ethics Commission when you called them?
I can't hear you.
Do you have an email from the Ohio Ethics
I
Commission?
can't hear you.
Does Mr. Bariak, does he have an email from the Ohio Ethics Commission after he called them?
I do.
Good, glad to hear that.
Continue.
The Ohio Ethics Commission will not give an opinion over the phone, and they will not answer questions from non-elected citizens, including myself. I received my email from my phone call to the commission, which is B1 and B2. Attorney Gates and I from the commission have talked many times over the years, and there's only 2 attorneys that handle these questions. In fact, you have to leave your name and your phone number, and somebody calls you back. Now, this email says, Mr. Waddell, as I stated our phone conversation, the Ohio Ethics Commission does not provide advisory opinions by telephone or by email. The Ethics Commission provides written advisory opinions in response to requests that are sent to the Ethics Commission by the U.S. mail. This email is not an advisory opinion and does not reach any conclusions as to the specific facts that you describe. An advisory opinion of the Commission is a written document based on a written request disclosing the facts. The Commission staff cannot provide verbal or written advisory opinions in response to questions that have been posted on the phone, emails, or on websites. The Commission staff also cannot issue an opinion to any person about past activities or about the activities of another person. And that's right straight from the Ethics Commission.
3 minutes is up.
Thank you, sir.
Okay,
You want to start right there.
Barbier, Ravenna Road, Newton Falls. On April 7th, 2020, there was a records request in reference to Mr. Bariak's recall. The recall petitions were submitted to the Board of Education long before the required deadline. The Board of Education failed to take the appropriate action to have a recall placed on the May 2019 ballot. When the city realized the recall was not on the ballot, they filed a complaint. Mr. Bariak also filed a protest stating it was too close to the May election and that his recall should be on the November election, not in a week or 10 days or a month, but 6 months until the next general election in accordance to the state law. Yet he is colluding to circumvent state law and force an illegal recall for his own personal vindictiveness, in my opinion. The Board of Education accepted his protest and placed his recall on the November ballot following some law. His Newton Falls Council did not have a say in the date of the recall. To further emphasize this point of voting on your own recall, Mr. Curlin, on January 22nd, 1992, Mohan Langley voted on their own recall date. On July 8th, 2002, Mayor Irwin voted on his own recall date. On January 7th, 2011, Luana Wasso voted on his own recall date. On April 1st, 2021, Mayor Klein was responding to an email from a member of council over the recall. He states his law director is wrong. Just because he has a title of law director does not make him above the law. I have a lawyer as well as a judge who cares, Mr. Mayor, looking at our charter with me as well as the Board of Education, told me this is done by general election. If Mr. Fritz keeps trying to twist the truth, he is going to end up losing his job. First, I take offense with the mayor, who is to remain neutral. Correct, John? Threatening the law director and if the mayor continues, Mr. Mayor, you will lose your job. I am also confused how the Board of Education sets a recall date at the next primary or general election on one time, as stated above by the law, and does something completely different the next. Someone is not telling the truth, and I'm sure which one or more of you it is. The problem here is when you don't tell the truth, you can't remember when you said the last time you told the lie.
Time's up, Mrs. Bear.
Thank you.
Is it the Board of Education or Board of
It's
Elections?
the Board of Elections. I have BOE there.
Board of Elections?
Board of Elections, yes.
Thank you.
Does anybody else like to speak?
Olivia Reed, Ravenna Road. I'm here to speak on behalf of Christopher Granchi as he is away for military obligations, though he is watching intently from McConnellsville, Ohio. On tonight's agenda, the motion to set the election date for May 3rd, 2022 is no less than absurd. The people have spoken to put this recall to a vote, and it is being deliberately pushed aside. The will of the people is once again being ignored by council by even entertaining this motion, as has becoming increasingly common. Representing the people is the core function of council. So how is it that it seems that this is the last thing on the minds of some council members? We want the opportunity to vote on this in a timely manner. If, as indicated from the lack of discipline for Ms. Braymeyer, she has done nothing wrong, there should be no issue putting this to the ballot and proving myself and others wrong by the recall failing. The issue here is that it will not, and you all know it. The charter is clear. It must be within 90 days of the delivery of recall. The Ohio Ethics Commission is clear. Ms. Braymeyer may not vote on issues pertaining to herself. The law director and members of council have had 2 weeks to clarify this with the Ethics Commission to find everything read by Mr. Bariak last meeting to be true. Ms. Braymeyer must not vote on her recall. I urge council to do the right thing before upper echelons must get involved with this council and administration. Recalling and impeaching is a pillar of our democracy, and it must not be ignored or delayed. Let the people speak at the polls on May 25th, 2021. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, if not, we'll move on to reports. Mr. Zimmerman, do you have anything for Ward 1?
Yes, sir. On April 6th, I attended the Planning and Zoning Board meeting. Sandy will clarify that a little bit more on what happened there. On April 7th, I attended the Fire Board meeting. This meeting was pretty much just a budgetary meeting. We adopted permanent appropriations as presented by the fiscal officer. We also approved the purchase of a Stryker Power Pro XT ambulance cot and MTS power sled system. The bulk of the cost will be covered by a BWC grant received in 2020, with the remainder from matching funds from the district. Now both squads will be outfitted with power cots. The next meeting scheduled for tomorrow, April 20th, at the Township Administration Building. On the 12th, I attended the Lattes and Legislators event at Roby Lee's. If people aren't aware of what happened there yet, the Turnpike Commissioner gave a nice talk regarding the history of the Ohio Turnpike and some future initiatives that are in the works. Guy Coviello of the Youngstown Warren Area Chamber of Commerce said that this event was presented so well that not only does Newton Falls have the distinction of having the single best event, but now he could say that Newton Falls has the distinction of hosting the 2 best events. He said that Newton Falls can expect more events in the future, with another one possibly this year, possibly in an evening. Regardless of what had been posted on social media by certain people that were in attendance, this was a well-run event and was received very well by the local government officials that were in attendance. On the 15th, I attended the Scott Street Sewer Project Town Hall meeting. We heard from city and township residents. Mr. Lynch reiterated that this will not be funded by the taxpayers, which has been stated since the very beginning. We heard from a few residents of Scott Street that want this project to take place due to the issues that they are seeing. And Mr. Lynch also reiterated that this project will not go forward unless state or county grants can provide the necessary funding. On the 17th, I participated in the Newton Falls Youth Baseball Softball League cleanup event. I heard at one point that there were so many people there in attendance that they almost had too many people there, not enough work to go around. So this event was well received. I appreciate everyone that came out. I want to say thank you for everyone that did come out, and it was a very good day. Got a lot of work done. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Boriak, do you have anything for Ward 2?
Just a couple quick comments. I attended the Lattes and Legislators, and I'd like to compliment Robbie Lee and his wife Donna for putting on a very nice breakfast for everybody and their explicit service. That's what I'd like to say about that. Also, I attended the Scott Street Sewer Project. I did hear that it will not go forward unless it's 100% funded. And we're looking at a lot of, Mr. Lynch said he was looking at a lot of grants and a lot of things coming in. He was optimistic. And he's very optimistic. So with that, I'll leave that one go too. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Spletzer, do you have anything for Ward 3?
Yes, I do, Mayor. On April 8th, I attended an election commission hearing. Mr. Waddell had filed a complaint against me based on elections issues, and I went to Akron, and that complaint was dismissed. On April 12th, I attended the Lattes and Legislators, and then on April 15th, I attended the Town Hall, which was over the Scott Street Sewer Project. On the 17th, I spoke with Mr. Tim Stinson about a lot of the work that had gone down at the baseball fields, and I'm happy to report that my son and a few of his friends and their equipment were there doing some of the work too. And I'm told that by Mr. Stinson, soon we shall be welcoming Mrs. Tanya Klein and Mrs. Jamie Klein to the Park and Rec Board. I look forward to it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Ms. Braymeyer, did you have anything for Ward 4?
Yes, I do. I went to the Planning and Zoning meeting on the 6th, and Adam was with me. And we discussed things like the abandoned cars and cars without license plates and so forth. And something needs to be done about, some of them are quite a nuisance, so they're trying to figure out what they're going to do with that. The other thing that they would like to do is they would like all the houses in the city to have house numbers that are visible from the street for the fire department and so forth to be able to serve the people better. And they're trying to start a campaign of some sort to gather money and so forth to do this. And I also would like to say that they've started on the pickle court down at where the building is down there in City Park. And so I'm glad to see that happening. The people were really wanting that. The next meeting for zoning and planning is May 4th, and it will be an open meeting here where the last meeting was a Zoom. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Alberni, do you have anything for at large?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can you hear me back there, Tom? Am I close enough? Okay, thank you. I want to say thank you for all the individuals who were able to attend the Lattes and Legislature events. I think it was a very important. It just gives you a little snippet of what goes on behind the scenes here trying to pull this thing off. Congratulations to council for being there. I truly appreciate it. It was important for us to have a show of unity there. The announcement that the Turnpike Director made was actually a groundbreaking announcement as far as the autonomous turnpike coming through our area, which is going to benefit Newton Falls, obviously, the surrounding communities, Braceville, Warren Township, or not Warren Township, Newton Township, and our neighbors to the west of us as well. So I appreciate everybody coming out. A couple other things I wanted to clarify that, I've seen some comments that I do this because it's self-serving to myself, and it's just not that way. I don't have to do this. I'm in constant contact with the Youngstown Chamber of Commerce, Guy Caviello, and we do this to showcase Newton Falls, the benefits and the assets that we have to offer to the surrounding area. And the director was truly, truly, truly amazed at the response he got from all of you coming out and the employees coming out, and great job to the staff, and he did unequivocally say this is the best event that he's ever been to. We're looking forward to having possibly a good morning event, I think maybe in September or October, but it was just a great way to showcase the Village of Newton Falls and just take a day and get rid of all the static and say, here's all the good things of the community. So I'm real pleased with the turnout and real pleased with everybody coming, so thank you so much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Musson, do you have anything, the Finance Director?
I do, Your Honor. All right. Dear members of council and the public, my financial update for tonight is that the Finance Department is working on some grants. We will be applying for the Ohio Nature Works grant for ADA handicap playground equipment. This is our phase 2. As the pickleball court is in progress, so that is in the 2021 budget as approved. On April the 29th, I will be attending the Ohio Management Budget Training for our federal CARES Act money that is proposed to come. And then we have finally finalized the investments to Charles Schwab, and that is going to save the city over $9,000 in advisory fees annually. And later on tonight on the agenda, I have provided a over 90-page detailed report for the first quarter of revenue, expenses, income tax, credit card statement. It's all in there. There's a lot of data, which we will go into later on the agenda. Thank you.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions or comments for the Finance Director? Okay. If not, we'll move on to the Law Director.
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry. May I be recognized? I'm sorry.
Sure.
Ms. Munson, when is our next TIB meeting, Treasury Investment Board meeting?
The Treasury Investment Board meets on a quarterly basis, so our next TIB meeting is typically in July for the second quarter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Anna.
Any other questions or comments for the Finance Director? Okay. If not, Mr. Law Director, do you have anything to report?
Nothing to report, sir.
Okay. And any questions, comments, concerns for the Law Director?
I'd like to ask one question.
Okay. Mr. Bariak, you have the floor.
When you lose an election and being an officer in Ohio Municipal League, doesn't that disqualify you then from being on the Ohio Municipal League trustees, sir?
I don't know anything about the Ohio Municipal League's rules.
Oh.
Okay. Is that all you have, Mr. Bariak?
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything for the Law Director? Okay. If not, then we'll move on to the City Manager. City Manager, do you have anything to report?
Just briefly, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Maybe beginning of February or so, actually prior to that time, my assistant Kathy King and I began working on a CARES Act grant that's a separate program than ones you've heard about, administered by the state of Ohio through Trumbull County. And I want to say thank you to Julie Green, who is the grants administrator for the county, that helped us as we processed a request. And the request was for us to redo the surface of this courtyard. Ladies and gentlemen, as you go out into this gathering area when you're leaving, look to your right, and you'll see that this building contains an interior courtyard surrounded on all four sides, but it has become virtually unusable for our seniors and their senior programs. The surface there is probably 40 to 50 years old, and the different sections of the aggregate concrete have heaved up, in some sections 7 or 8 inches, less so, but nonetheless dangerous and unusable. So we asked this CARES Act grant process through the county to let us have a grant through this process. And again, we've been working with Julie Green. Thursday of last week, the state and the county issued a joint announcement indicating that Newton Falls would receive $105,000 in a non-matching grant That's enough money to fix the problem in its entirety, and we're just delighted to see that this is bearing fruit. I'm expecting that work will happen sometime this summer. And that's all I had to report, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I have a question for you, Mr. City Manager. I was notified by an individual that the July 4th, it's on a Sunday, that this year that they were looking at having the parade on July 4th actual. And I was wondering if you had heard that or if there's any truth to that, because we've always, when it's fallen on a Sunday, have had it on July 3rd.
Yes, the July 4th committee is having a meeting tomorrow night to discuss that very topic. And I'm waiting with bated breath to see what their decision is.
Well, I don't really think we need to hold our breath. If they stick to July 4th, I would like to see the permit declined. It can't be on Sunday morning. It needs to be on Saturday.
Yeah, I don't know. They're looking at different alternatives, one of which is July 4th in the afternoon, so it doesn't interfere with any other church activities. But again, the committee is having a meeting tomorrow.
All right, well, keep me up to speed on that. Does anybody else have anything for this,
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to be recognized, please.
Okay, Ms. Spletzer, you have the floor.
There are two items on the city manager's report that I would like him to elaborate on. One says, met with solar farm developer, and the other says, met with Eastgate fiber representatives. I'd like more information about both of those, please.
Sure. May I be recognized, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, you have the floor.
Thank you. There's a private company which has not disclosed, asked for any public disclosure at this time. As you know, under the Sunshine Law, a new developer is allowed until they're presenting any contracts not to reveal themselves, but I can give you some details as I know them, Councilwoman. It is a company that builds or constructs solar panels for the purposes of generating electricity. And then they sell that electricity back to the grid. That's about all I know about it right now, and I have no written proposals in that regard. The second item has to do with Eastgate Fiber. As you know, we've been looking at building our own fiber system here in Newton Falls. Eastgate is undertaking a study, a feasibility study as well, and they met with us in order to see how their feasibility study could interface with our feasibility study, so that if Newton Falls builds its own fiber system, and we certainly can do one a lot more quickly than they can because they're talking about all over the Mahoning Valley, that they would want to make sure that our fiber system was constructed in such a way that it could interface with their fiber system. In other words, not interfere with, but fit hand in glove with what they're doing in a seamless fashion. And their study should be completed somewhere, we're expecting towards the beginning of June, and we'll be working very, very closely with them so that we have all the various technical requirements related to fiber construction, ones that will interface with theirs. There are different elements of the way these things are constructed that one can choose when doing the construction. And the only example I can give that's similar is, imagine if you were building a plant of General Motors cars and somebody else was building a plant, and you wanted to make sure that the parts are interchangeable. By the way, that's not the greatest analogy, but at least you understand the idea. They want to make sure that the two systems could interface. And we had a very productive meeting, and that's the nature of those two meetings.
Okay, does anybody else want an address on the city manager?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, if I could, please.
And Mr. Alberni, you have the floor.
Just to dovetail what the city manager said, in the last month or so, we've probably had 3 or 4 leads come into the Village of Newton Falls. The Youngstown Warren Chamber of Commerce acts as a clearinghouse for Mahoning County, Trumbull County, so on and so forth, to see if communities have potential properties available for companies that want to come into the area. So thankfully, we're included in these. We haven't landed any yet, but we're at least included in the emails. And some of it's proprietary, and you can't say who it is. So thank you.
Okay, would anybody else like a first address with the city manager?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Mr. Zimmerman, you have the floor.
Mr. Lynch, it was announced on Facebook earlier last week that Reverend Mike Primer was appointed as the events coordinator.
Yes.
If you could take a few minutes, could you just explain? There's been a lot of speculation on what exactly his duties will be, what he will be doing.
Sure.
Sure that his background was vetted and looked into before he was appointed to this position.
Yes, Mike Primer is a guy that's organizing a revival meeting for some time this summer, and he impressed me with his organizational skills. So I said to Mike, as we have events that come to Newton Falls, could you help to the extent that we need some volunteer help? And sometimes the volunteer help is very simple. It's just a matter of someone who calls a distributor of risers to set up a stage for someone, or someone who calls vendors in case we needed to identify different vendors for an event. So essentially, citizen Mike Primer responded to my request to do some volunteer work, and he said yes. I talked to him today, and he's already doing some various things to help us along the way, but it's more of an assistant than anything else. He has no official authority in any way, shape, or form in that regard. And it's not uncommon for me to solicit citizens to step forward and volunteer for different things, for different days and different programs at different times anyhow. And that's really the sum and substance of it.
Thank you, sir.
Anything else, Mr. Zimmerman?
Nope, that's all.
Okay, anybody else? Ms. Braymeyer, Mr. Boriak, would you like it first? No. Okay, anybody, Spetzer, Alberini, Zimmerman, you want a second?
I'm good, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, then we'll move on. The only thing I have to report, I don't have a whole lot, is that I just wanted to say thank you to the individuals and the groups that have done such a good job recently in cleaning up our streets, our parks, rivers, and fields, and everything that you've done. And I just want to say that you are what makes Newton Falls great, and that's all I have to say. Changes to tonight's agenda, do we have anything? Okay, good. Approval of previous minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the April 5th, 2021 regular meeting minutes?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Mr. Alberini, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, is there any discussion on that? Okay, if not, can you call for a roll call? Mr. Fritz?
Thank you. Mr. Bariak?
Yeah.
Ms. Spletzer?
Yes.
Ms. Braymeyer?
Yes.
Mr. Alberini?
Yes.
Mr. Zimmerman?
Yes.
Okay, minutes approved. Public hearings, if the clerk wants to go ahead and read the one ordinance that we have.
Ordinance 2021-03, an ordinance amending ordinance 2020-39, making appropriations for the current expenses and other expenditures for the city of Newton Falls, Ohio for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2021.
Okay, would anybody from the public like to weigh in on this? Okay, if not, 1, 2, 3, it's closed. Okay, then we go to unfinished business. If you want to go ahead and read the same ordinance, that's what we have.
Again, ordinance 2021-03, an ordinance amending ordinance 2020-39, making appropriations for the current expenses and other expenditures for the city of Newton Falls, Ohio for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2021.
Okay, do we have a motion to accept?
So moved.
Mr. Alberini, do we have a second?
Seconded.
Mr. Zimmerman, any discussion on this?
Yes, Ms. Munson, could you fill us in, please?
Okay, this is to amend the salaries for the city employees. And there's a chart that was included, and it's a retro back to January 1 for an additional 2%.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, is that all you have, Mr. Alberini?
Yes, sir.
Okay, anybody else want to weigh in on this? Any comments?
Yes.
Mr. Boriak, would you
May I
like?
be recognized for a first address, sir?
Yes, you have the floor, Mr. Boriak.
The budget itself was passed out a day late. We didn't have any input. I wasn't allowed to have any input with the supervisors to know what was really going on. The budget's flawed. That's all I'll say about that. As far as my vote tonight, everybody knows me in Newton Falls. I wanted the employees, I didn't say 10%, I said at minimum 5% in all the employees. I will abstain from this tonight because in my heart, if I vote for this, that means that I'm biting on for a 2% raise, and I want, in other words, like Mr. Zimmerman said, well, you got something. I don't feel that way. So I will abstain tonight. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, anybody else want a first on this? Okay, if not, does Mr. Alberini or Mr. Bariak want a second?
I'm good, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Good. Okay, roll call.
Ms. Bletzer?
Abstain.
Ms. Braemar?
Yes.
Mr. Alberini?
Yes.
Mr. Zimmerman?
Yes.
Mr. Bariak?
Abstain.
All right, motion passes. Okay, and I think we're going into new business now. Okay, as we go into new business, I want to read something I put together here so that we're clear on this. As we begin the new business, it is my responsibility as the mayor to make sure that all business of my meeting is held ethically. For that reason, I'm determining and making it very clear that Ms. Braemar will not be discussing, voting, or doing anything in regards to the Ward 4 recall based on the Ethics Commission. Mr. Clerk, if you could go ahead and read the motion, number 1.
Before I read the motion, Mr. Mayor, I have to point out that you don't have that authority to determine who can vote.
I didn't ask you. Just go ahead.
I know you didn't ask me, sir, but I have an obligation also. Motion to set the recall election for Tuesday, May 3rd, 2022.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Seconded.
Okay, any discussion?
Yes, I'll bring this up. Everybody knows my position on this. I'm not wavering. I'm steadfast. I'm confident in my decision. This situation with Ms. Braemar, she's a friend of mine, first of all. Number one. Number two, does not merit or fall into the category of misfeasance, not malfeasance, nonfeasance of a public official being removed from office. Matter of fact, I'll go something else. We wasted a lot of time on this. And, we're elected officials, and personalities should not be involved, even though they are. We should be running the business of the community and doing what's best for the people. And I hear all the voters. I've had a number of calls today, a number of emails today, and I respect those emails. We agree to disagree, but I am not for a recall, especially on my watch as council. I didn't like it the first time around. I don't like it this time around. This sets a bad precedent for our village. We just came off a great event with lattes and legislatures, and now we have this. So I'm sticking to what I've told everybody I was going to do, and let the chips fall where they may. If the council decides to pass or not pass, that's up to council. But I'm voting no on this, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. All right, before we get another person to weigh in here, and it's I don't have the authority. The clerk or the law director is correct, but council rule number 8 says that we shall follow the Ohio ethics policy. The codified ordinance 121 also says that we shall follow the Ohio ethics policy. The Ohio Commission, Ohio ethics policy, and I'll paraphrase it as Mr. Kurland said, that conflict of interest, public servant may not take action in matter that directly affects themselves, such as voting, discussing, or any other thing like this. So I don't have the authority, and this isn't about our own opinions. I appreciate what Mr. Alberini said, but this has nothing to do with where we fall, what events we had. We could have had 10 events. But the fact of the matter is, according to the ethics policy, you don't vote on anything that pertains to yourself like this. And the fact of the matter is, a vote on this is to set the date of the election. It has nothing to do with guilt or innocent. What we have here is we have individuals from the ward that went and they did things according to the way it's supposed to be done. They got the votes, it's put in motion, and for us as a council, we are to do things correctly, and that's what we're going to do tonight. I don't have the authority, but I will see to it that we follow the ethics policy. I think every individual in this room has signed something like this that says you've received the ethics policy. It says that you will follow the ethics policy. And our ethics policy in Newton Falls is under the Ethics Commission stated Ohio ethics policy under the Ethics Commissions. Again, I'll read it. We'll drive it home. It involves public officials and employees taking official action, making decisions in matters that definitely or directly affect themselves. Down here, simply put, a public official has a conflict of interest when his or her ability to be an objective decision maker, doesn't mean you are, but it says could be impaired. Possibility. Could be impaired by his or her own interest or interest of their family members, business associates. That's conflict of interest. And lastly, when someone in public service is confronted with a conflict of interest, he or she must completely abstain from making decisions about influencing how the matter is resolved, such as voting, discussing, reviewing, recommending, any of these things. Remember, public servants may not take any action in matters that definitely and directly affect themselves. Has nothing to do with anything that's going on or how we feel about it, or if we, I don't like recalls myself. I want to get along. I want to come here and I want to be making decisions what kind of grass seed that we're planting in the community center, what color of paint we're using over here. I'm waiting for a meeting like that. I don't like to have meetings like this, but we're going to follow the ethics commission, and I don't have the, like we said, the authority, but the ethics commission does.
Mr. Mayor, may I be recognized again, sir?
Once I see if anybody else has a first that they would like. Would anybody else like a first?
I would like a first, please.
Ms. Spletzer.
I believe the date
Would you
that...
please speak up, Mrs. Splitzer? I'm having trouble hearing down at that end from Mr. with his mask on.
I believe the date that Mr. Alberini chose is a direct violation of what it says should be done by our charter. I'm reading directly from Article 7, Section 4. The council shall thereupon fix a day for holding a recall election not more than 90 days after the date of such delivery. I have confirmed with the administration that all of us received our certified letters on April 8th, and there was one that was received on April 9th. So we've got 90 days to set the date for the election. The letters have been received.
Okay. Is that all you have, Ms. Blitzer?
Yes, sir.
Mayor, if I pass my first, if I do want to have one, do I get one?
Yeah, you're not on the floor right now. I'm waiting for somebody to ask for first. If you want a first, I'll grant you the first now. If not, I'll seek Mr. Zimmerman.
I haven't had a first yet, but I'm saying if I want to speak, will I have the opportunity?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Does somebody else want the floor? You want the floor?
Ms. Braymeyer, Mr. Zimmerman, before me. I have a second address, Mr. Mayor, but let them.
Yeah, that's
I
what I'm
haven't had a
asking.
first yet.
Yes, I'll take my first.
Go ahead, you have the floor.
I believe this is a very grave issue facing us. A recall is something that needs to be taken very, very seriously by the people involved, by everybody involved. We on council have been lambasted, I guess, for ramming things down people's throats, not giving people plenty of time to make up their mind on a decision like this. This is a huge, huge decision. This needs to not be settled on emotion. This needs to be settled with facts, with people having a chance to explain their sides, with people being given a chance to speak, research being done. I believe that if we act real quickly on this, this is going to be done on emotion alone and not just on facts. We need to have time to let the facts settle themselves out. Thank you.
Okay. Some of these things, like you're saying, Mr. Zimmerman, is beyond our control. Like I said, there's an ethics commission that we follow, and that's why certain truths are immovable. It doesn't matter whose opinion. The facts are, like I said, tonight, isn't the facts of guilty or innocent. The facts are to set the proper date and time so that 200 people out there can determine truth. Mr. Alberini, did you want a second?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think the body of the language that you said as far as a conflict of interest goes, I don't see the conflict of interest with Ms. Braemar voting. I don't think it warrants that at all.
Just keep it down. Keep it down.
I would ask the public, please show a little bit of restraint when we're talking. Okay, that's all.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Alberini?
Yeah, I just don't see in that the body of the language that merits what a comment, because yeah, as I said the previous meeting, there was comments made toward me, unfortunately, which I could care less. There was a comment made in November by a council person that was pretty inappropriate. I could care less. I'm over it. So I think we're crossing into a very, very, very gray area where, because we think someone said something, we're going to recall them. To me, it just does not merit that, and I stand my position, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. I believe going on the, like I said again, I don't base none of this on my authority, but I'm following and studying ethics policies and things, and I would be criminal if I didn't follow the ethics policies, if it's to meet my meeting. The fact of the matter is I don't know exactly the problem that individuals have. I don't believe it's the curse word or whatever. That was a disciplinary action, and everybody voted no on that. I think it ended there. But the fact of the matter is when individuals got signatures for whatever their reason, and the fact, I'm just going to read a statement. This is from when Mr. Lynch was seeking employment here, and he was Mr. Bariak's attorney. So there was a connection there, you know. And at that point in time, Mr. Alberini, you had said because an elected official cannot vote on a motion directly pertaining to him or her. So you said that you expected the motion at that time to be a tie, but the mayor being called upon to break the tie. The same thing there.
Mr. Mayor, with all due respect, those weren't my comments, sir.
All right. All right. You don't have the floor. Let's keep rolling. But the fact of the matter is, as I said, we follow the ethics policy, which we're told to follow. You know, it's in our charter. It's, you know, what we do. We have paperwork to sign. So does anybody else have anything that they want to weigh in before we go?
If I might have an address.
Mr. Bariak.
Look, I want to tell everybody out there who's watching in the community and everything. When I went for the recall, the last one of 2019, there was nobody, Mr. Alberini, Mr. Waddell. As a matter of fact, Mr. Beer took signatures up on a petition against me as sitting councilman. Look, no one could say I said a word. Let the people speak and let them decide whether they want to keep. And that's what my position was. I had no hand in setting it, nor did I say anything derogatory or anything about what they did. I let the people speak. I'm here today. And in my heart, I probably shouldn't have gone down this rabbit hole right now because it's making it a little bit about me, but I want the people to know it's not about me. It's about what they want. And the people should have the right to speak. They shouldn't have to wait till, well, Mr. Alberini won't even be here next year when that motion comes up. And although, you know, he's here now, and Mr. Zimmerman's running for re-election. So my position has been all the time is to let the people speak. Let the people speak. They are my boss. If they didn't want me here, I wouldn't be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Hold on. Anybody else want another address?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Zimmerman, you have the floor.
I just want to say that I don't believe that anybody has the right or the authority to say Ms. Braemar does not have the right to vote on this issue.
The Ohio Ethics Board...
Excuse me, I am talking.
Don't tell me.
Excuse me, sir.
You want to leave?
No, sir.
Well, then keep it down. I'm going to tell you what, somebody does have the right and the authority, the Ohio Ethics Board. Do you remember signing paperwork?
May I please finish?
Do you remember signing this paperwork?
Finish, sir.
What is that?
I said, may I please finish?
Yeah, if you finish correctly.
Thank you. As I was saying, I don't believe anyone has the right to tell Ms. Braymeyer beforehand how she can vote.
Again, the Ohio Ethics Board does, which you sign.
If she votes and it is found to be unethical, that is on her.
She's not voting tonight
It is not
because I'm not.
beforehand. It cannot be determined who can vote.
She's not voting tonight. It's my meeting. She's not voting tonight.
Mr. Mayor, and I,
Mr. Mayor, may I be recognized?
Yes.
In Article 3, Section F of the Charter, an accused member of council shall not vote on the question of his removal. It's right here in the Charter. She shall not vote on the question of her removal. It's in the Charter.
All right, hold the applause. We don't want to get crazy here.
Mr. Mayor, may I address, please?
Do you have an address left? I don't even remember going on my paper.
I lost count. I don't.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. I have to make a motion to override the chair in this, sir.
You don't have the floor.
I have the
Seconded.
floor.
You don't have the floor.
You just give it to me.
You don't have the floor, and it doesn't
Just give it to
pertain.
me.
No,
You just gave it to me.
no, you don't, not for,
I make a motion that we override the chair.
no. It
We have a
doesn't pertain to what
parliamentarian
we're
sitting
doing.
next to you. Get his
Doesn't pertain
opinion.
to what we're doing. Call for the roll, and she's not voting.
Mr. Mayor, all due respect, I'm calling her name.
What's that?
With all due respect, I'm calling her name. I'm calling the roll.
Well, then, if you can't follow my instructions in my meeting, there's the door.
Am I being replaced, sir?
Yes.
No, wait a minute. I want to know what we're voting on before we vote.
We're getting ready to vote for number one, which is the 2022 year.
So if I vote no, that means I'm against setting it for Tuesday, the 3rd,
Yes,
okay?
of 2022.
Okay, thank you.
If you're going to break the ethics policies, then I'm going to take over as the clerk tonight.
I'm not breaking the ethics policy, Mr. Mayor. With all due respect, as Mr. Zimmerman pointed out.
Is that your legal opinion? I mean, I don't know if you're the clerk tonight. I don't know if you're the clerk or the legal counsel. I don't know. Is that your legal opinion, what you're stating right now?
Are you going to interrupt when I answer, sir?
I just asked you, is that your legal opinion?
I do not give legal opinions, I've repeatedly said, with regard to individuals' conflict of interest. It resides with the individual. If we believe that they're doing something wrong, we contact the Ethics Commission thereafter. We had this very same conversation at the time they were looking for discipline on her.
Well, you know what?
My position has been clear and straight.
Well, then that's, the ethics policy doesn't state that. We don't just base something on anything to say we're going to do it this way. After the fact, she's not voting, you call her name, I'll take over. You guys can go to the ethics policy afterwards and file something on me, do whatever you want, but we're going to do things correctly. If you don't want to call him properly, I'll call him. Mr. Zimmerman.
I make a motion that we override the chair, sir.
Mr. Zimmerman.
Seconded.
The motion's been on the floor twice now, Mr. Mayor.
It's on the floor. I'm asking for a vote right now. Mr. Zimmerman.
No,
override the
override
chair.
Time.
Go. See ya. Officer, get him out of here. Get him out of here. Get out of here. Not going to interrupt my meeting. Not going to interrupt my meeting.
Order him out.
Fire him. Make a motion to fire him. Yes. Make a motion to fire him.
I'm back up, Mr.
All right, let's keep it down. We got a meeting to finish. Let's keep it down. We have a meeting to finish. Keep it down. We have a meeting to finish. It's the mayor's meeting. It's the council's meeting. These individuals are visitors. If they want to leave, see ya. Thank you, officer. We already have a quorum. We could have a meeting, so have fun in the parking lot.
Mayor,
All right, let's keep it down.
direct the police to bring those people back. The council, direct That's your authority. You have the authority to bring these people back.
Bring the councilman back in. They're to come back in for the vote. Anybody else can go.
Have the police bring the council people back.
Yeah, they're here. They're going to come back
It's
in
in
and
the
vote.
charter, sir.
Where's it at in there?
Under the order, council, you have that right to demand that they come out.
Yes, you do. They have to come back in.
True. No, I don't need them in here anyways.
Yes, we've got one more issue to vote on.
Yeah, there's 3 of us here. Yeah, we're fine.
Does that mean they abstain?
All right. Yeah.
We need one of them, I
Huh?
think. I think
No,
we
we
still
don't.
need one of
No, we don't. No, we don't. All right.
Let them cool off. You're the boss.
Go ahead.
All right.
You need to compel them to come back in.
Why? Why? I mean,
Because-
you're gonna make a motion to put the next one on the table. He's gonna second. We're gonna vote. And it's gonna pass.
Right.
Well, you need 3
But
votes.
I don't know that you count as a quorum.
But
You,
we already have a quorum. We already called roll call at the beginning of the meeting.
That's correct.
oh,
Yeah, so we're good. They want to walk out there, they took a bathroom break, I don't know what they're doing, but
correct.
we're going to roll forward. All right, I don't have an
all
agenda in
right, well,
front of me.
we need to vote on the old,
Yeah, we're voting on number 1 first. Do you have an agenda in front of you that I can read off?
I do,
Huh?
somewhere here.
Well, folks, it's going to be a quick meeting. All right.
Mayor, before we vote, may I have the floor?
Here you go.
Yeah, hold on for 1 second. Let me get my agenda here so I can do these things right.
Where we're at.
Okay, Mr. Boryak, did you want the floor?
Under our charter, sir, you have the right to direct the police to go find those people and bring them back. Under the charter, sir.
Okay, I don't believe we need to. We have a quorum. The meeting's been started. In each of these motions, we have 2 council people to put it on the floor. We have a vote. So I think we're good.
They don't answer on their vote.
All right, so number 1, motion set to recall election for Tuesday, May 3rd, 2022. Do we have a motion to put it on the table?
Mr. Alberini already did that.
Okay. All right, so we're on the
And
vote.
Mr. Zimmerman seconded it.
Okay. Alberini and Zimmerman seconded.
Now we can just call the roll.
Okay, call the roll. Hold on for 1 second. Let me get myself here. Mr. Zimmerman, I suppose you abstain. Mr. Boryak?
No.
Okay, Boryak is a no. Make sure somebody in TV land is taking notes. Ms. Spletzer?
No.
Okay. And Ward 4 isn't voting. At large, Mr. Alberini must abstain, and the mayor says no, fails. Okay, number 2, a motion set May 25th, 2021 is the date for the recall special election date for Ward 4.
I make that motion.
I'll second it.
I wrote it.
Okay, again, we don't have a scribe to write it down, so somebody film. Ms. Spletzer made the motion, Mr. Boryak seconded the motion. Mr. Zimmerman abstained. Mr. Boryak?
Yes.
Okay, Boryak is a yes. Ms. Spletzer?
Yes.
Okay. Ward 4 can't vote. Mr. Alberini must be abstaining. The mayor says yes. We'll report it right here to the Tribune that our special election date is May 25th, 2021. You can report that tomorrow for us if you could.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Lastly, under new business, a motion to acknowledge receipt of the Finance Department March monthly report and attachments as presented. Do we have somebody to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. I read them.
Ms.
We can acknowledge receiving them.
Okay, Mr. Boriak, the second.
Second it.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, pass. Public comments. Anybody who wants to have a public comment, it's not limited to agenda items, so anything is fair game. Name, address, 3 minutes.
I'm sorry. I need to go first. Mr. Mayor, I'm not a citizen, but I do have to ask you something. Is this a legal meeting still? Yes or no?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Listen, here's your answer. Here's your answer. This is a council meeting. I'm the head of council.
Okay.
These other individuals are visitors, so if they're not back next meeting, it's fine with me too.
I've been asked to stop recording and stop live streaming.
No, whoever gave you that, it's my meeting.
I wanted to ask the president of, the one who's running the meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, we will continue.
Keep recording.
No problem.
It's not his call. Yeah, keep recording. It's still a meeting. Okay, anybody? Ms. Lemon?
Julie Lemon, 2750 East River Road. They were here. Wanted to talk about accountability, and it means the fact or condition of being accountable and responsible. And what struck me was that it says their lack of accountability has corroded public respect. That's the sentence when I looked it up. But Mr. Mayor, Mr. Bariak, Tessa?
Could you please speak a little louder?
I sure can. You three have the integrity and the dignity and the character that this community was built on. The ones that walked out and threw a temper tantrum, that's the lack of respect, accountability and respect. And I thank you personally for being people of honor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tracy Hurst, 613 Ophelia Street. I'm just going to close with a little phrase that I came across that I think is appropriate. I'm sorry there are some select people that aren't here. But accountability feels like an attack when you're not ready to acknowledge how your behavior harms others. Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Mayor, for all that you've done tonight. Tessa, John.
Jamie Klein, 312 Ridge Road. I want to thank you three because this is a long time coming. I received an email today, and it kind of tore me up. It talked about citizens in Newton Falls who are against the recall are either renters who don't pay taxes or they get public assistance. I'm so tired of hearing that. I work my butt off. My husband works his butt off. We own our own home. We pay taxes. Anybody in Newton Falls, I don't care if they rent, if they live in a shack, if they live in a trailer, a house, a mansion, whatever. If you're over 18, you pay city tax. Anybody in this city has a right to speak on anything. And anybody in the township is still Newton Township. It's part of Newton Falls. And I thank you three for stepping up for us and taking charge, especially you, Mr. Mayor. You have shown us a lot, and we appreciate you. Trust that. Thank you.
Richard Curlin, 611
Would you please speak up, sir?
Richard Curlin, 611 North Canal Street, Newton Falls. I feel we had a quorum when they decided to vote on the quorum. It was there. It's a shame that it has come to this. It really is a shame. The facts of the matter is what the mayor stated. That's what ethics says. That's what we swore to obey as a council. This is not an opinion. You can't let somebody, if someone comes to you and says, I want to rob that store, well, that's your decision. That's not how we work in this area. If someone says, I want to beat her up, well, that's your decision. Not at all. You be complicit. Besides that, you're being immoral. It's a shame it's come to this. I believe it's appropriate. Thank you.
Charlotte Simmons, 365 Warren Road. I've lived at my home for 40 years, and in 2003, I paid it off. I was 50 years old, single mother. I love Newton Falls. I clean the underpass quite frequently. I ran for office, but ended up having to remove myself at the end because of health issues. But the one thing I did on April 22nd, every year, was try to go out there and clean my underpass that I live at. And I just want to say to everybody here tonight, love the town that we're in. Take care of your surroundings. And on April 22nd is Earth Day, my birthday. Please pick up the trash. Thank you.
Tom Colosimo, 4196 Carson Salt Springs Road. I'm just going to take advantage of people probably watching this now. The Spring Peddler is May 8th. We're still looking for vendors to set up. If you haven't done so, you go to the Commerce page and sign up. It's $30 a spot. We got about 30 vendors, probably room for about 30 more. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, if not, closing remarks. Let's see. Mr. Bariak, do you have anything for Ward 2?
Yes, I want to just say one thing tonight to the people. You can go back and research it. Article 14 is to overrule the chair. Mr. Waddell, when Joe Batista and I and Mr. Stempert tried to overrule the chair, the mayor said, I'm not going to accept that. Went right through. The law director didn't say anything about it. He let it go right through. Now, when it comes a time when we're going to have to stand up for and be accountable and not flip-flop, lop-dop, and everything like that. And that's what I think the people in this town want. They want to, I'm not telling them which way to vote. All I want to do is let the people have the right to speak. And so vehemently tonight, I don't know why, but the people can see this, let them judge for themselves, and I stand by my convictions for this community. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Fletcher, do you have any closing remarks?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. I would just first of all like to thank everyone for coming out and for supporting council and knowing that what we were doing tonight was some very important stuff. And, you know, I also received the email from Mr. Alberini, but, you know, I had thought about addressing some of his demeaning and degrading remarks to the people in our town who are renters, and he calls them non-taxpayers. And I just got to the point where I said, you know what, I'm with Jamie. I don't care what side of the tracks you come from. I don't care what your bank account looks like. And I don't even care if you live in the city or in the township. We are all Newton Falls.
Yes.
So thank you for coming. Thank you.
The only thing I have is police officer left. I feel sorry for him that he was put into a difficult position. Yes, I do apologize to them. But the fact of the matter is, the rest of you here, you know, I talk to a lot of people in the community, and I tell each of them, you know, it's going to get better sooner or later. And my prayer is that it's sooner. You know, and I do thank, you know, many of you that sent messages to me today that you were praying and stuff like that for me. I appreciate that. But as I said, what was it, a year ago when I ran for mayor, you know, interviewed my thoughts on it, and I only had one thing to say, and I still have it. This one's for you, Newton Falls.
I make a motion to adjourn.
We have a second.
I'm so proud of
You second the motion to it?
I make a motion to adjourn.
you. Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Good night, everybody. Thank you for coming.
Hey, can somebody help me up here? Hey, Matt, will you help me up? I let my knee locked up. Will you help me up?
I didn't say thank you, but I thank you.
The police should have gone out and got him.
Thank you.
That's in charge. They could be, I mean, is that the ORC? Hey, Rick,